Welcome to the sixth broadcast of the T-Row Show. I'm your host, Keith, and we have Stu here. Say hello, Stu.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Okay, we normally have Tony here, but he's in the middle of a move, so he won't be attending this particular broadcast. He should be back by next week. Last week we had spoken a lot about the driver's license issue and how the treaty was misinterpreted and along on the Convention on Road Traffic. And we said that we were going to talk about the reign of the heavens this week, and we are going to do that this time. But first, you're going to have to know a little bit about, if you're going to hear the message, you're going to want to know a little bit about the messenger, because this deals with a very touchy subject, especially with Christians, extremely touchy subject. If anybody goes to reignoftheheavens.org, that's reignoftheheavens.org, and hits videos, you will hear, there's two videos there. One will say Reign of the Heavens is a country. The other one will have Dr. Reyes there. I think his name is Reyes. And he goes into grave detail on the Council of Nicaea. So if you want to listen to that, it's 50 minutes long. It's extremely interesting information. The problem that I saw with the delivery was a faith, and by listening to the information, a faith was being stripped from you and nothing to replace it. So I'll give you a little bit of just my specific background so that the people in the Christian religion and belief know that I know exactly where you are coming from. I was used to, in fourth grade, I went to, for half of a semester, or half of the school year, I was pulled out of public school and went into the Baptist private school. And I went through the saving thing, accepting Jesus into my heart, went up to the altar, felt all that, cried, did the whole thing, just like it happens to everybody. Felt the light. Of course, was made fun of afterwards by everybody else that didn't do it. And that was the beginning of a completely different journey than what other people were taking. I had a belief. My belief system ended up from that Baptist part. The parents thought it would be a good idea to become Mormons. So we ended up going to a Mormon church for about 3 years. Fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, but all the way up to about seventh grade. And my dad at the time was a pilot, was a Pan American pilot. And he went into the Mormon church, and within 3 months they wanted to make him a bishop. And I have a feeling it had a lot to do with the fact that he was a pilot, and he had a lot of money at that time. This was back in the 70s. And he had a lot of money and was able to, more than everybody. And being a airline pilot back then was an extremely prestigious thing. It was, you might as well just been a walking god when it came to that, because that's how the pilots were treated back then. And I asked him later on, after years, I said, why didn't you become a bishop? And this is nothing against the Mormons. He said, it's because everybody was sleeping with everybody else's wife. I couldn't take it anymore. I said, okay, that's understandable. You know, it could have been just that particular ward. I think it was the Palm Beach ward. But that's what it was. So we didn't go to church after, I think, about age 11 or 12. I stopped going. And basically never returned to any churches. However, my faith was still in Jesus and the light of Jesus and all that. So around, after I went through my sowing my royal oats type, stage, that's just a statement, not saying I'm a royal, but trying to put it lightly here. Sleeping around, all that kind of thing, between 18 and 21. I went back to worshiping the light of Jesus and the whole deal. And I ended up dating a Jewish girl. And this really shocked. It was only a 30-day thing. I was dating her. And I used to have a cross in my apartment. I bought one that had made out of ceramic and all that. It was really nice. And I put it up on the wall. And she came in and about freaked out. I said, "What's going on?" And she says, "You have a cross on the wall." I said, "Yeah." She goes, my people think he's the devil." I said, "What?" This really shocked me. I had never heard this before because I've been told in the churches that the Jewish people were the chosen people. And she said she did not understand why the Christians kept calling the Jewish people the chosen people. She didn't understand that. And she says that's all the way through the whole Jewish community. I said, "Really?" And she says, "Yeah." She says, "We thought he was the devil." So it was like it was like something, hit me, and I was going, wait a minute, if we're finding a lie here, we're finding a problem. I'm going to have to start questioning and doing some more questioning because that doesn't make any sense to me. Why would I be told one thing and all of a sudden something completely different comes up from the source of the people that were the target of the claim? And then I started looking into all different kind of religions. I started looking into the Jewish religion. I started looking into the Islam, Muslim religion, Catholic religion. Read a lot of their Bibles and a lot of their things because I wanted to know the truth. There was even a sect of people that were called Christian Identities, and I talked to them a little bit on a few things. And then there was others that believed that they were the real tribe of Israel, and started talking about that, and went into those specific beliefs. So I've done a lot of study on it, and I do understand when somebody says, when we start talking about the reign of the heavens, they start the very first thing that usually will hit a very devout Christian is, well, they have not been saved yet. This is the reason why I'm bringing this up. They haven't been saved. They haven't felt the light and the grace of Jesus. And I'm here to tell you, I've been there. I've been exactly where you are. So, after all this time of studying and looking into this, when the reign of the heavens was discovered, it started putting a lot of things together for me as to why. And this is not to demonize religion. This program is not to demonize religion in any way, shape, or form. Religion does have its place in the world. There are many spheres of religion. There are Buddhists, and then there's Hindus, and those are different spheres. Different spheres meaning different belief systems and faith systems. There's Muslims, and there's Catholics, and there's Protestants, and there's all kinds of Baptists and Methodists and Seventh-day Adventists and Jehovah's Witness, Mormons, every different type of sphere you can think. And each one of them have their own basic beliefs. Then there's those that want the unincorporated church, the 501c3, the unincorporated type of church, and they want that recognized. So please keep in mind that I was there. I know. So please don't say, well, and discard this information that you're about to hear as something of, well, they have never done this, so this is the reason why they believe this way. They have never felt this, so this is why they believe this way. Or they're antichrist in some kind of cult, or something of that nature. Because essentially, the reign of the heavens has really nothing to do with religion at all. Religions and beliefs were put in place to keep people together. There's nothing wrong with that. If it serves mankind, human beings, in a positive way, to where education is there, they have the comforts of living, they have food on their table, clothes on their back. If that's what it does, then that's fine. To me, at least. Maybe not to others, but to me it is, if that's what it does. However, let's set aside religious beliefs now, just for a few minutes, and start looking at things on what you believe is being said, or what you believe is there. Let's go by with what's really there. Because after all this study and all these things that were studied with in dealing with religious and beliefs and Bibles and things like that, because I've read the Bible twice and I've read other Bibles. And I read a book called the Book of Yahweh, which is a huge green book. Went in there and read that, which has a completely different story than the cross, by the way. It has the story of that he was impaled by a stake. And when you go back to impaling, it goes into different ways that was done way back when. So there's a lot of mixed messages and things like that. But I ended up going to where it made sense because I had experience in certain things. There was a lady called that named herself Alex Christopher, and she had this book called what was that called? Pandora's Box. And her belief system was that we were the real Israelites from Israel. I was so inspired by that I had left the U.S. and created and formed the Yisrael nation. Went back to the original term. It was never really Israel. It was the Yisrael nation. And professed to be a Yisraelite as a national. Now that experience as forming a nation and leaving the comforts and or suffering, whichever you experience within the United States, I felt free for 90 days, at least. 90 days until I was attacked. And I was attacked by those in the Hillary Clinton crowd. Thrown in jail, called a sovereign citizen, all these things. Tried to constantly I was a Secretary of State, so I was constantly trying to impose the diplomatic relations, not realizing what kind of people I was dealing with. Same people that were trying to become president of the country now. I was very well aware of those crimes that they had committed. Everything that they said about Hillary, I knew since the 90s. The late 90s. And all those people that came forward, seen them before. They all came forward in the late 90s. Of all the pain and the suffering that they've gone through. And they did it to me too. I even had to move. I had to move out of the area. I had to move from a home that I built with my own two hands. That kind of thing. That's how bad it was. But I did get and gain the experience of a nation, of building a nation. And when I did that, I saw the world differently. Most people in the state level and local levels inherited what they had. They have no idea how to start what they inherited. The people that built Chicago, when it was nothing more than a field, were light years ahead of the people that inherited it and are running it today. And what I mean by light years ahead, they had knowledge that the general population does not have today. Because you're not taught political science, you're not taught political philosophies, anything of that nature. If this country were to go down right now, in other words, the whole country just wiped off the map, the people that were left would have no idea how to start something brand new. So the beliefs in the belief system and the knowledge that it takes to grow and start a nation has been lost to the people. It's a completely different mindset. What gives the CIA its power is it knows how to create nations and destroy them. That's what gives them their power. That's what gives them their authority. And when you have two people that are maybe adversaries, and one and the other, they both know how to create a nation and destroy a nation, that equals the power out, no matter how big one is to the other. Because you can't lie to each other because you don't both know the truth. And you know every trick in the book of how to destroy a nation or build one up. A lot of people don't know how to do that. They wouldn't know how to write a constitution. Boy, they can study it, though, can't they, Stu? They study that thing like it's a Bible, don't they? The Constitution of the United States and of the United States of America.
Excuse me. Yes, they do. And they talk about it as if it's a religious document.
Every single day. They'll talk about it, bring it up. Well, Article 1, Section 3, just go on and on and on. It doesn't apply here, it doesn't apply there, and blah, 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 blah. And they're hooked on it. However, ask them to write one.
You mentioned the education several minutes ago, and what the vast knowledge that the public school system has abandoned regarding civics. What have they done? The only thing they've touched on is the Constitution and the July 4th independence, and the pageantry has replaced actual knowledge of what what occurred. History's been rewritten, basically.
Exactly. The heraldry. Yeah, they're taught a lot about heraldry and the majesty and the reverence of a parade. You notice how they want to have a parade? The parade has completely changed. People don't know what a parade was. Because when these cities were being built, they had a mayor. And what used to happen is that the mayor would go to a different city. And all the people would invest, like all the retailers and the farmers and everything, would invest to pay for the mayor to go over to another city. Now, why would a mayor go to another city? It wasn't to help each other or it wasn't to show, hey, I'm the great mayor. It had nothing to do with it. He was going over to grab products. How many products did they have that these retailers could sell to their customers? Like back then they called them patrons. What was needed? Blah, 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 blah. So he would go there and set things up through the railroad. Now, when he came back, everybody says, hey, the mayor's here. Why was everybody excited? It's not because they knew the mayor. It's not because he was a great guy. The reason is because he was about to have a parade. And the parade was to parade all the products from the other city. So the women were excited because, hey, I'm going to get to see new dresses. And the men were excited because, hey, I wanted to see all the nice tools, all the new tools that came out, new inventions. That's what a parade was. That's what parades were for. They had a purpose, a specific purpose. And why people would sit there and watch people go by, like with a Miss USA pageant or some Miss USA chick just sitting there waving, that's not what it was about. They've completely wiped out the purpose of a simple parade. You were there. It would be like going to Walmart.
Well, it's been replaced by, and it's been a little while since I've seen a parade, but last I saw particularly the televised ones, it's really cartoon characters now. Why are we bringing Winnie the Pooh down in, an inflated Winnie the Pooh down Main Street?
Exactly. So this shows you, folks, that there's a lot missing in our basic education system, and there are only a very few people in this country that would know how to rebuild it if it were completely and utterly destroyed. To where once you started rebuilding it, you wouldn't have chaos. And that's why the people here are constantly stating that, are being told that if the grid went out, people would be in chaos. And that's why, because people don't know how to run. They don't know that they need order. Okay, they don't know how to build something. So
and they have very, very little ability for true self-reliance.
Exactly. Going out and using aquaponics to grow food. Not knowing you have to. If you don't have food coming in, you got to go hunt. You're going to forget all about Bambi when you get hungry. You're going to find some way to kill Bambi and get something to eat. Because while your crops are growing, you have nothing to eat. So you're going to grab squirrels, rabbits, anything you could possibly get your hands on. Go fishing, whatever it is, you're going to grab something. Because when you get hungry, you get hungry. And you change completely. And you grow up real fast. A lot of people in this country haven't been that way, in that condition.
There's actually people in this country that have been so indoctrinated that they support ordinances that don't allow the collection of rainwater or don't allow backyard gardens and things like that. It's really sad state of affairs.
Yeah, man, that is really, really sad, because you are completely reliant on someone else to take care of you and make sure that you're taken care of. That means you have never become an adult. That means you're being treated and as a child from cradle to grave. That's sad. They never let you grow up. They never let you have the freedom of your own expression and your own speech. But anyway, I think we've gotten the point across about building something. So please withhold your judgment until you have walked in some shoes of building a nation. We went from the Yisrael nation to the United States of America. It was a progressive thing, not a communist progressive thing. It was a progressive set of stages that we went through. First, we had to take the Yisrael nation and learn how to do that. Go through the experience, feel it, know it. Not just read it in a book. Know what it feels like to do that. Know what it feels like to not have any support whatsoever that you grew up with. Because people, regardless, they believe the system has become their dad and mom. It's mom and dad. Well, I can always rely on the system. It's produced arrogance. It's produced ignorance. It's produced all kinds of things. It's produced some great things. Some positive things that have come along.
Yeah, and we're not here to reprimand or...
No.
Because people have their personal outlooks and their personal necessities. So, no one can live on their own. It's an impossibility in this existence. I have to rely on other people. Other people have to rely on me. We, meaning me and these other people, have to rely further on others. It's just the way it is. But within that context, there is plenty of room, a lot more room than's being used for self-reliance. And that's what we're attempting to communicate here.
Right. Okay. So let's go to something that all of us missed. It's been preached in the churches for many, many years, 1,000 years, over and over and over, that Jesus is the King of Kings. Well, according to the Paleo-Hebrew of the time, his name was Yahushua. Some believe it's Yeshua, so we're not going to get into that argument. So what we're going to do is, when I say Yahushua, just imagine that it's written in Hebrew, Paleo-Hebrew, and leave it at that. Because I'm not going to get into that argument, because there's a lot of arguments over the name. But in a book called The Scriptures that was translated in 1998, it was finished and published in South Africa, they used the Hebrew name, or the Paleo-Hebrew name. It's different from Hebrew today, and that being Yahushua, and that's how it was pronounced. So, please don't give me the emails. Don't want to hear it. I'm not going over that. I'm not going to go over that, because that argument just goes on and on and on. But I go by what the book is telling me, just like everybody else does. In the first ones, it starts talking about, and when they had left, see, a messenger of Yahweh appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, "Arise, take the child and his mother, and flee Mitzrayim, and remain there until I bring you word, for Herod is about to seek the child to destroy him." Okay, that was all there. Out of Mitzrayim I have called my son. Then it goes into the Herods having died. See, the messenger of Yahweh appear in a dream to Joseph in Mitzrayim. "Arise, take the child and his mother to the land of Israel, for those seeking the life of the child are dead." Okay, and then they moved him a couple of different times. Okay, and then you have what you believe is, or what I believe was too, was John the Baptist. Actually, it wasn't John the Baptist at all. It was Yohanan the Immerser. Came proclaiming in the wilderness of Yahuwah, or of Yahuwah. Okay, now remember that word wilderness. Okay, because there was a term back then with the Israelites and the Israel nation where they were in the wilderness for 40 years. Now, let's go to the practical way of looking at this. What does that mean? It means they wandered around the desert. They were wandering. They were stateless and countryless. They were essentially refugees from Egypt, if we put it in today's terms. So wilderness means in exile. It means stateless. It means that you have no country. Nothing. And most people believe wilderness means they were wandering around the woods. Because you were told in cartoons that we must go out in the wilderness, and then they went into the forest, where all the wild animals were. So people lost the meaning of wilderness. When from a political point of view and a political science point of view, it means exile, stateless, and you don't have a person, you don't have anything. You have no identity. You're without a country. So Yohanan the Immerser and John the Baptist, he was in the wilderness. He had no country. So, that being said, it keeps going down, and when it mentions Yahushua, it calls him the King of the Yehudim. Today, and the other Bible calls him King of the Jews. He's a king. And people today still call him a king. And the reason why they do this is because they've never read the book. They rely on a man on sitting on a pulpit telling you that the King of Kings is here. Praise Jesus. Praise the Lord. Call him Lord. And that's a what do you call it? A title of nobility, or a title from a king. And this is how they do it. Now this is I know this program's gonna spark all kinds of crap, but that's okay. That's all right. We're ready for that. I had to prepare myself for a week for that, because I knew it was coming. Because there's going to be all kinds of things, because you don't see it from a point of view of building a nation. It took me a long time. And guys, when I learned this information here, just what I'm about to tell you, when I learned this, I'm going to warn you, I was depressed for about 3 months. Because my whole foundation of my belief system was pulled out from under me. I had watched Rhea's, the doctor's video, and that pulled everything out. That it was not true. It was by the Council of Nicaea. If you go watch that video, you'll see what I'm talking about. He even asked people, is everybody okay? I have people fainting sometimes. One time I had to have an ambulance outside. Call an ambulance for an individual because they just fainted. We know how much this means to you is what I'm trying to say. I know personally how much this means to you. I know it. I just want you to know that. I get it. So I'm not doing this to try to pull you away from your belief. I'm not doing this to try to tempt you away from the light of Jesus. Okay? I'm just saying this is what I figured out. And it actually brought me closer to the Most High and not away from Him. It pulled me away from those who would lie to me. And I went to the truth. And I felt closer. I understood the Most High in heaven better. I didn't say I understood all of Him. I said I understood Him better. I understood Him. I felt closer to Him because I can speak to Him about a subject matter that many others can't speak about because they don't understand it. So in Matthew 4:1, listen to this statement on what you just heard. Then Yahushua was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tried by the devil. Remember, He's the Son of God. He was given the title Son of God, and He was also given the title King of the Yehudim, meaning King of the Jews. The word Jew didn't exist back then. They called Him Yehudim. And I'm sure somebody's done some research on who the Yehudim are. But please do your research, not from a religious point of view, from a pragmatic point of view, what the actual words are telling you. Just try that. It works. Then Yahushua was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tried by the devil. I just told you that Yohanan the Immerser was in the wilderness. He was stateless, countryless. The Israelites were in the wilderness for 40 years, countryless, stateless. If Yahushua was given the Son of God term and given the King of the Yehudim title, that was all gone in Matthew 4:1. Because he was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tried by the devil. The wilderness means he went into exile. The Spirit did it. Once he went into a stateless and gave up everything, he was no longer considered the Son of God and no longer considered the King of the Yehudim. I'm not saying it. That's what the book is saying. Read the book. and see it from a country building point of view. Not what you were told by a preacher that has never built anything in his life. A preacher that has established a city, I'll listen to him. He knows what he's talking about. He knows what the book says. So, Matthew 4:1, there it is. Yahushua was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tried by the devil. Boom, he's done. No longer king of the Yehudim. So you can't keep calling him a king. And didn't they keep saying it in this trial? They kept saying, are you the king of the Jews? So say you. He's trying to tell you. No, because he was in the Spirit, led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tried by the devil. He had declared exile. He had given up all those things and was stripped to nothing except for being a man. And he couldn't get it back. And the one thing that I left out was Yohanan the Immerser, John the Baptist, you guys know him about. You know about him, you know of him that way. Had already proclaimed the existence of the reign of the heavens. So Yahushua was not the first one to proclaim the existence of the reign of the heavens. Isaiah was the prophet of the reign of the heavens. He was the one that proclaimed it a long time ago. Yohanan the Immerser was the next one. And then the third one was Yahushua. Now, when you're getting ready to establish a city, first of all, you're going to go into a real empty piece of ground. What are you going to do? What's the very first thing we got to do? We've got to go in and we've got to say, okay, we have a city here, or we want to establish a city. First thing we're going to have to do is call a surveyor. You're going to have to survey the ground. What are the city limits? The city has rights, but as long as it doesn't impose on anyone else's rights. The city is going to have private ownership of property in order to survive, because the city itself can't own property. It has to come from the people. So each and every time a city was built, the very first thing they built was what? A church. They built a temple or a church or a building to assemble in. And then start discussing how big their town was going to be and how big their city was going to be. And how it was going to operate. And how the common ways were going to be moved in, what you call roads and streets today. And who's going to take care of those streets and roads? And how are we going to pay for it? And all these things. They all start coming together and doing that. And they usually do that in their church. Because that's where it all begins. They have to have authority for what they're doing. And every state constitution today says it was ordained by God, Almighty God. There were different terms used. But each and every one of them did that. Now, why would they use the Almighty God or God as their authority? Because He builds nations. And if the Most High builds nations, you can't proclaim to be a sovereign being directly under God and tell everybody to kiss off. Unless He came down to you in a great light and dubbed you His subject. And who's to say that He has a monarchy in the first place? King of Kings could have meant something completely different. It could have meant, as a king, He makes kings. And it could have also meant that an individual that overtook Troy called himself the King of Kings also. He raised himself above kings. That's happened a couple of times. King of the Netherlands does the same thing today. He thinks he's the King of Kings. He makes kings. He made the monarchy over in Hawaii, so he believes himself the King of Kings. That's how it works. Let's get back to going into the church. All right, now we're going to go and get survey. And back in the day, it used to be, well, this big rock and this tree over here and this creek over here. That's how they did it. They just go over and mark it. And then they come up, they write it out on a piece of paper and say, okay, here's our metes and bounds. All right, listen. And leaving Nazareth, he came and dwelt in Capernaum, which is by the sea, in the borders of Zebulun and Naphtali. Zebulun and Naphtali is in the northeast of Israel today. Back then it was divided by the tribes, so they call it Nebulun and Naphtali. Zebulun and Naphtali. Now, why would they say, which is by the sea, in the borders of Zebulun and Naphtali? It's because he was claiming those metes and bounds. That's the very first thing he had to do. Claim the metes and bounds. And it was to fill what was spoken by Shayahu, the prophet. That's Isaiah. To fulfill it. Now, how come just coming in and dwelling in the borders of Zebulun and Naphtali, fulfilling a spoken thing, unless something was really going on there? Just standing there is not doing anything. But to claim those metes and bounds, now you're doing something. There's a purpose for it. Now we've got meat, we've got teeth. Land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, the way of the sea, beyond the Jordan, Galil of the nations. Gentiles and nations mean the same thing. And he says, from that time, Yahushua began to proclaim, because what are they going to do? When the Mormons went up went to Salt Lake, they proclaimed the existence of what? Salt Lake City. When they developed Chicago, when all the metes and bounds were done, what did they do? Proclaim the existence of the city of Chicago. Same with the city of New York. Same with the city of Washington, D.C. Same with the city of Orlando. That's how it was done, guys. You proclaim the existence of it. So you have your metes and bounds, and now you got to proclaim the existence of it. For the time of that time, Yahushua began to proclaim and to say, repent, for the reign of the heavens has drawn near. That was a little statement in there because they put has drawn near and repent. They put that in there. And really what he was doing was proclaiming the existence of the reign of the heavens, which was the country within the metes and bounds of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, which was the Galil of the nations. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. He left us the reign of the heavens. He left that country for us so that the people that were lost in the wilderness would have a nationality, would have an identity and have standing. And it would stop the Romans from exiling people and claiming them as their own. Which is exactly what the United States and Manhattan Island has done today and to the people in the United States of America. The message of the reign of the heavens has been lost, and it's now being brought back.
In support of that, we do know that the Roman Empire, it disintegrated partially, but it never really collapsed. It just moved from Rome to Britain and began reestablishing itself there. Britain, of course, is part of the, what do we call it, Tri-City Empire?
Yeah, three-city-state empire.
Yeah.
And they relish people that are in exile or are countryless and stateless. Bring us your weak, bring us your sick, bring us this and bring us that. They'll take anybody.
Yeah.
And that's why they call it a whore. They'll take anybody.
Yeah. And this ties in a little more modern. You got the open border push. Here, the illegal immigrants, Obama, just as recently as this past election, saying that illegal immigrants could vote. They're illegal immigrants, and yet he's just going to ignore that and allow them to vote.
The goal of the new order today is to make everyone stateless.
Correct.
And nationless and everything else. And the reason for that is because then they want you to go and claim or profess your allegiance and fidelity to their government, of which they are in charge and run control. That's how it works. Mm-hmm. So the message of the reign of the heavens, because he said, the people who sat in darkness saw a great light. Well, what happens when you finally learn something and it opens up and you learn the truth? That's what it feels like. Holy crap! That's what people say. Oh my God! And today they'll go out and cuss around the backyard and everything else, kicking stuff. Oh my God! It's just out of excitement because they just learned something. It was awesome. Okay. And upon those who sat in the land in shadow of death, light arose to them. And he said, for that time Yahushua began to proclaim and say, for the reign of the heavens has drawn near, because he showed them that they were stateless. He showed them they had no country, they had no say, that they were essentially slaves, products of other men that did have a country. Now, what's the next thing you got to do? You got your metes and bounds. You proclaim the existence of your country. What's the next thing he's got to do? He's got to bring in a population. So, in Yahushua, walking by the Sea of Galilee, it's Galil in here, but it's Galilee is what you know it today, saw two brothers, Shimeon and Kepha, and Andre, his brother, casting out a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And he said to them, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. And immediately they left their nets and followed him. I'm pretty sure the conversation was a little deeper than that. I'm sure it was. But they had two brothers, and then two other brothers did the same thing. And what that's symbolizing is he was starting to bring in a population. When he says, I will make you a fishers of men, had nothing to do with religion. What it had to do with is he had to bring more of a population into the reign of the heavens.
Yeah, recruiters.
Yeah, I'll make you recruiters. Of all the people that Rome had exiled and made subjects and slaves, and you can free them by offering them a nationality. That's all it means. And Yahushua went all about Galilee, teaching in their congregations, proclaiming the good news of the reign, and healing every disease and every bodily weakness among people. Now, let's go to today. Now, Galil teaching in their congregations and proclaiming the good news of the reign. All of Galil. That's called public notice. And then he used his medical skills to heal people. It was called foreign relations. This is why you need to come to the reign of the heavens, because we've got great medicine here. We've got this, we've got that. So he was basically going around and proclaiming, and that's also the same thing they do today. It's just done by a third-party agent called a newspaper, proclaiming the existence of something. Now, and the news about him went out to all Syria. That was Syria. And they brought him to all those who were sick, afflicted in various diseases and pains, and those who were demon-possessed, and epileptics and paralytics, and he healed them. And it says the large crowds from Galil, Decapolis, Jerusalem, Yehuda, and beyond the Jordan followed him. Boom, international notice. He went all about Galil, and then that was internal within the reign of the heavens. Then he went to Syria and all them, and that was international notice. Meaning other countries now know the country of the reign of the heavens now exists. Guaranteed nobody's heard this. But when he saw the crowds, he went up on a mountain, and he was seated. His taught ones came to him. Boom. Seat of government. He became the seat of government. He was seated on his mountain, and his taught ones came to him. That was his council. That was part of his government. They would want you to believe that he was disciples, but they were taught ones. They were people that were taught how to do international relations. Peter was the postmaster. Who was the guy that screwed him over? I can never remember the guy's name. The one that hung himself, sold him for 30-something. Judas.
Judas?
Yeah, Judas. He was the treasurer. And each and every one of the others all had government offices. And there were government offices of the reign of the heavens, and he was the head of state. He was the head of the reign of the heavens. And the point being is that if you don't have a nation today, the reign of the heavens is your nation. And I'm going to jump forward because this program is going to get a little long here. That's enough for you guys to really hit for today. Okay? I'm going to jump forward because there have been a lot of stories to make you believe that what this man did was unreachable for you. And what he did was very simple. He began to wash the feet of his government officials. And they're saying, why are you doing this? We should be doing this for you. And the message was that government should serve the people and not the people serving the government. The reign of the heavens, folks, was the first republic of, by, and for the people. He was the first one to piss off every monarch there, because the monarchs were used to being served. You serve the king. And he said, no, the government should serve the people. The king should serve the people. And he could do that in many different ways. And that doesn't mean get on your knees, worship the people and all that crap, or do whatever the hell they tell you. It means that it should serve their best interest, take care of them, and take whatever power they give it and bring it back to them in the form of blessings, in the form of prosperity. He had the best commerce in the world. He knew how commerce worked. He was the first one and the first republic in history. That's why people are still talking about it today. Anything to add, Stu?
No, makes sense to me. Public works, government serving the people, that goes to, all kinds of public welfare. I mean, basically everything. And you can have very easily tyrants step in, and all of a sudden the tax collections and stuff get dumped into their personal bank accounts, and the people's infrastructure begins to deteriorate. Homes can't be repaired, roads don't get fixed, bridges collapse.
Gee, I think you're describing all the states of the union today and what their conditions are.
Well, isn't it interesting how, you can have some politician that gets elected and 7 years later they're worth $35 million more than they were when they first got elected. And yet none of the bridges get rebuilt or anything.
Yeah, nothing gets done. And then if anybody says anything about it, they call them, what they try to kill them or try to destroy their reputation.
Mm-hmm.
And attack them and everything else because they got to hide it. It's easier just to do what you're supposed to do while you're in office. And they go, well, how do I get reelected? Maybe it wasn't your time to be reelected. Maybe that you guys should actually talk to the newspapers and get a little special price for all your reelection campaign. Maybe the news, the news should give you some special prices for that if you want to run, so that it's affordable for everybody to run. Oh, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. We got to raise the prices. Oh, we got to fix the medical costs, and everybody gets medical insurance and all that. Everybody gets it. You won't have to pay for this, and you won't have to pay for that. Well, folks, why don't you go over to the medical community and tell them to lower the damn prices so everybody can afford it? That sounds like a great idea. Get rid of the inflation and the inflated prices within the medical industry. Now everybody can afford it because they're all inflated. Now we're going to replace Obamacare with new insurance. That's going to be affordable for everybody. Why do I have to have insurance? Why can't I go in there and afford something? I work every day. I do the things. Why is it so out of reach and unaffordable? I don't get that. Doesn't make any sense to me. So it should serve the people. And if the medical community is not serving the people, then we need to revamp the medical community, not the insurance companies, and not the laws. To where if you don't have medical insurance, you get fined. Well, a real brilliant idea, guys. When all you have to do is revamp the medical community, making their stuff affordable. Get rid of the inflation because it's causing a lot. It causes a lot of debt. Get that out of there. You get the thieves out of the medical community because the doctors and nurses are not the thieves. It's the people running the medical community that have no skill whatsoever, couldn't heal a finger if they tried, or try to heal a finger if it got cut, that are in there that are causing all those problems. And that's why the medical community does not serve the people anymore.
Yeah, I think that goes back to the point of the program overall. You have now the privatization of what most people think is public government, and they're not compatible, because if you have a private entity running a court, the drive isn't for justice. The drive is for profit, because it's private and there's people expecting a profit at the end of the year. So what's really occurred, the corruption, it seems to me you could make a case that the corruption that is hinted at in the ancient texts of pharaohs or particular kings, etc., has really been hidden behind the veil of a corporation. Harder to identify who's actually pulling the strings behind a corporate entity than it is, 1,000 years ago when you knew that the guy on the big hill over there in the palace was the one creating the problems.
Yeah, so they thought, well, if we're going to do this and we're going to rip everybody off, I guess what we'll do is we'll hide it behind a corporate veil.
Yeah.
And that way the leaders of the countries, have you noticed not a whole lot of leaders of countries are accused of much?
Mm-hmm.
They're blamed at the end, but really not really accused of that much. Basically because the corporations take the brunt. So it was a good way to keep them, it was a good plan if you're going to do that. However, the message of the reign of the heavens is very, very simple. Government, countries, nations. And giving those people a nationality. And that those governments should serve the people, not the people serving the government. And that's what the New Order is trying to circumvent. What they're doing is they're trying to change and reverse the message of the reign of the heavens, thereby making you stateless, nationless, and all that, to then put in their government so you will serve that government and they will not serve you.
And if you refuse to do that, you're easy pickings.
That's right. And therein lies your flaw. And that's what I believe is why the reign of the heavens in 2012 was rediscovered. And its message is now being brought forward. Thank you for tuning in to the the T-Rose show. Called the Reign of the Heavens, down the Reign of the Heavens. Thank you for tuning into the T-Rose show. If you'd like to hear more about this, you can go ahead and message us. There's more here. We could go into quite a bit. Blessed are the poor in spirit, because there's the reign of the heavens. That was his naturalization. There's a naturalization thing, and it shows all of the different departments and everything that he had within his government. Then it gets really interesting, folks, when we talk about Elohim City. And just to keep everybody in mind, when we talk about Elohim City, we're not talking about the ones in the States that Elohim City needs to be rebuilt. This one was over in at the base of Mount Herod. Mount Hermon. I'm sorry. Mount Hermon. That's the base of Mount Hermon. We're not talking about this other one that somebody built here in the States. Okay, so just keep in mind that they are separate. We're talking about way over there. Also, mention the Tuesday night call. Stu?
Yes, we have a regular occurrence Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's a conference call, informal conference call, to discuss being an American nationality, varying topics, because it's informal. And that is through Zoom. I don't have Zoom's connect number. I just have the direct dial. It's 857-232-0155. And if you'll give me I'm sorry that I didn't write the other one down. I do have
the connect number?
Yeah. Do you have it?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I do not know it. We'll have to put it in the, I'll tell you what we'll do. When I put this on YouTube, we'll go ahead and put that at the bottom. Okay, we'll put the information at the bottom.
I've got it.
You got it. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. That's 646-558-8656. So the interested individual will dial the 646-558-8656 number, and you're basically connecting to Zoom call service at that point, and then you'll dial the specific meeting room number, which is 857-232-0155. And that is Tuesday nights, each Tuesday night, at 8 p.m. Central Time.
It's an excellent call. It really is a lot of fun to be on that call. We talk about everything. We argue. We do all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
work things out.
Yeah, we work things out. We'll argue about this or that, or or we'll have fun and joke, or we talk about, important things. It's all everything. So it's the kind of call you can just pretty much enjoy listening to or getting involved with, or talking, asking questions, whatever you want to do. That's what it's there for.
Indeed.
Okay, so thank you. Go ahead.
No, that's it. I said indeed. Yep.
Okay. Thank you for tuning in to the T. Rowe Show. We hope you enjoyed this this program. Any attacks, blatant attacks, will not be answered. If you have actual questions, we will answer. Please be respectful towards others. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. And we'll answer the questions the best we can. And I hope that this particular program did make you feel a little bit closer to the Most High, to God in heaven, however you refer to Him, Yahweh in heaven, Yahuwah in heaven, Jehovah in heaven. And that was the message that this was about. It was to make you feel closer to the one who made you, because that was the message of the reign of the heavens that came through His Son that was brought forth. One of the sons that were brought forth. We'll talk to you next week.
Enjoy the rest of the week.